want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Madmen of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Just for you. Hey, I am Kirk M. Samuels.
And I am Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Madmen of Masculinity, baby.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Yeah, no doubt, man. We as we're recording this, man, as we're putting this on album on wax, as they would say back in the day. We're winding down to the end of our calendar year here, 2022. So whenever you're watching this, remember what you were doing near the end of the year on calendar 2022. So man, this, it's a good time to kind of, this time of year we reflect back, but then we also look forward. We also begin to turn the page on another year. And if you're anything like me, or once you get around a certain age, man, you start turning them pages on them calendars faster than it feels like, man. And man, it's a whole lot to reflect on, man.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like we might as well do an end of the year kind of celebration, do a little for the guys, kind of, how to plan for the next year. And one of the things I always find interesting is, everybody, there's always that New Year's resolution thing, oh, I'm in the new year, I'm going to do this. The new year, I'm going to do that. And most people don't last more than 3 weeks, if 3 days. And so one of the things we want to talk about was how, as a guy, to plan out your next year with a mind towards freedom. How can you plan out so that you're not like doing the New Year's resolution and then done in 3 weeks, but how can you plan out? And because this gentleman over here is an expert in freeing men from internet pornography, his book, his group, I mean, man is changing people's lives. So we wanted to throw some of his expertise in on this and maybe help you gentlemen out there going into this new year, set yourself up for a little more freedom moving forward.
I think it's a universal theme with men, maybe with people. I don't know. I've never been a woman. Not everybody can say that. But I think it's a universal theme with men where one of the common values that we have is freedom. Like, as one of the kind of the foundations of the people that founded this country. And for a lot of us, man, it's one of the things we hold a high value to is just the whole notion, the whole idea of freedom. And me personally, man, that's one of my highest things. That's one of the highest things that I kind of hold on to in life in terms of the things that are important to me in life. And it's, and it's, like I said, it's something that I've found as across the board. I haven't come across the guy yet who said that he doesn't value the idea of freedom and that he wants to be bound or trapped or slaved or imprisoned by something. So I think it's something that's probably universal for men in general, man. And yeah, I mean, when we get to the beginning of the year, it's a good time to look forward, especially in the context of freedom, man. And I think it's huge.
Yeah, and one of the things I wanted to break down too is when we're talking about freedom in this, one of the things that freedom is the ability to do what you want to do without the constraints of something else holding you back. But also, in a lot of cases, freedom is your mentality, your mindset, your drive. And we've talked about it before about not putting so much onus and weight on somebody else's opinion of you or social media, all this contrived and people's lives where you go, oh, well, so-and-so's got this or so-and-so's got that, or I need to be like this. I mean, you look at somebody like Nelson Mandela, who was in prison for 26 years, but he had a freedom mindset. So even if your body is in prison, your mind and your heart can be free. And that was one of the things we wanted to talk about, was that freedom can look many different ways, even if you're not necessarily physically free. Maybe you have a lot of responsibilities. Maybe you have a family and a business, all those things. And part of you is like, oh, I can't be free. I've got all this stuff. But that's only a aspect of freedom. But being free in your mind and your heart, which usually means being very fully aware of who you are, what your purpose in life is, where you're moving forward to, and why we want to do this episode is really give you some kind of pointers on how to make, a freer mindset, or to give yourself something to shoot for, that you can make those 1% incremental increases in your mindset to become a man of more freedom of mind and heart.
You can't have anything great. You can't have purpose. You can't have all of the things that you want to look forward to. You know, your growth. You can't have a booming business. You can't have a prosperity in any kind of way. You can't have intimacy. You can't have relationship. You can't have a whole lot of things if you don't have freedom, right? I mean, and you know that's kind of one of the foundational ingredients to the recipe, to everything that it is you want to accomplish, if there's anything you want to accomplish in this next year ahead of you. And quite honestly, regardless of whenever you listen to this, tomorrow starts a new year. Tomorrow is Happy New Year for somebody, right?
Mm.
Or for all of us, right? So it is kind of a timeless message, but at the same time, it is a time to reflect. But if you don't have freedom in your life, man, you know, all the stuff that you have for goals and all the stuff you want to accomplish, you know, and I think that's one of the reasons why, you know, New Year's resolutions don't last, because we don't get rid of the thing that kept us from having it in the first place. You know, there's so many things. If your New Year's resolution, quote unquote, is to lose weight, or to whatever, fix your credit, or whatever it is, I don't know, or to get free from some addiction or something like that, to stop doing some kind of habit. Um, you can't have any of that kind of stuff if there's something holding you back from that inherently in the first place. And so until you fix that whole thing, you're only medicating a problem. You're not healing whatever it is that might be broken. And so it's a, you know, it's a parallel to the whole idea of freedom. It's freedom from something so that you can have freedom for something. And until you get freedom from something, you can't have freedom for something. And so, you know, when you want to turn that page in life, man, whatever it is, man, you gotta start off with whatever that foundational thing is. And for most of us, especially here in America, there's something holding us. There's a brick holding down our balloon, and the balloon is meant to rise. The balloon is filled with all the right things that it takes, and you are filled with everything that you need. But you know, in a lot of cases, man, there's a brick. There's something heavier than what's inside of you that's holding you down, you know, to the gravity of this earth. And so yeah, I think it's one of the foundational things to everything you want to achieve in terms of your goals for next year, or your goals for tomorrow, next week, or even next month.
Yeah, and one of the things I wanted to talk about too is that, like Kirk's talking about, your freedom really comes from internal. It's your freedom of who you are. And so many people make these New Year's resolutions, or they make goals, or they make plans because that's what they think will bring them happiness. That's what they think, the outside world shows them, that I need to make this much money, I need to drive this car, I need to have this job, I need to have this partner, and that's going to make me happy, when really the happiness comes from inside. And so many times we create goals, we create these plans to make ourselves happy, to get that freedom that we think that we need, but we're not looking internally at who we really are, at our internal traumas, at our childhood stuff that would actually free us. And what's interesting is some of the most free people in the world don't have a lot except for a, a self-worth. They know who they are, they are grounded in themselves, and they are not swayed so much by the outer world and social media and marketing and all these things. They know who they are, they know what they want, and they're grounded in that. And usually most of them are quietly free and happy. They're not as big and braggadocious as a lot of people who are trying to cover it up with something else. When the inside of you doesn't feel the way you want it to feel, when you still have the trauma, when you still have these stories and maybe lack of self-worth, or something that is holding you down, and that is that anchor and that brick that's keeping you from actually being free, but you're out there chasing and striving for something to cover that up with. So looking internally and going, well, who am I really, what do I really want? And I guarantee you, if you can get a little more hold on who you really are and what you really want, and go for those goals, and they could be simple goals, but when you're going for something that actually feeds your soul and feeds your heart, you'll experience a level of freedom that you've never felt before. Because when you're covering up, those things that you own, those things that you strive for, tend to own you. So when you're striving for quote unquote freedom, with by getting a better job, by getting more money, by getting a certain house, by doing all these external things, you are actually moving away from who you really are, and those things tend to own you and make you feel less free and more enslaved and more trapped.
Yeah, so I want to. I mean, right off the rip. I mean, shoot, if you're watching us, whether it's live or playback, or whether you're watching us on Facebook right now or YouTube right now or in the future or whatever it is, if you're on the website madmenradio.com, put a comment in there. If you comment here while we're broadcasting or while we're doing this live, in preparation for our show, put a comment on there, and I'm curious as to what kind of things have you um, gotten freedom from and or want freedom from, and or what kind of things would you like freedom for or freedom to do. I'm curious as to what kind of things are going out there. So yeah, if you're watching this, put a comment in there, and if it's after the fact, if it's live, then even better. But if it's after the fact, man, we're curious, and we love to have that feedback with you, man, because like I said, I think a lot of things that this is the time of season between the holidays and the beginning of February when they call it cuffing season. When people are really into the relationship mode, the dating mode. You want somebody to kiss on New Year's Eve. You want somebody to swap presents with at Christmas. Of course, you want somebody to have a date with on Valentine's Day. All these different kind of things are what people are experiencing. Like, let's say, for example, if you're single, and so a lot of people, want to go a certain direction relationally, but for some reason you can't experience that. And commonly, it may have to do with something that's in your life now that's holding you back from being open to experiencing the type of relationship that you want to experience. And so, I mean, these are kind of the ways it plays out. But the whole idea of freedom, man, is it's something that is, like I said, is universal. Universal is definitely American. Um, it's definitely something that we hold to. We don't want the government telling us what to do. We don't want nowadays, man. We don't even want like our spouses or parents to tell us what to do. We don't want nobody telling us what to do. But at the same time, all of these things that we get trapped on. Like I say, keep us from all of the foundational things in our life, and all the things that we want to look forward to. And speaking of looking forward to,
What should we look forward to now, sir?
let's look forward to a little break, man. What do you
Oh,
think?
we're gonna take a break. I think we should take a
Because
break.
Mad Men are on, man. We're on KLDC 1220 AM in the Mile High City, on the interwebs everywhere. And so we're gonna take a quick break here, and we'll be right back. Don't go nowhere, especially if you're watching this live. Don't go nowhere. Boom. Yeah, if you're watching this live, we're doing this, and you kind of get the behind the scenes right now, because this is what Harrison. Oh, freedom from pain from any. Oh, we'll do this when we come back. We'll bring you in, Harrison. Boom. All right. Yeah, y'all getting the behind the scenes if you're watching this live, man, because we're doing this for our radio show. So here we go. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. We back. Guess who's back? Back again. It's the Mad Men. You know what I'm saying?
I like
Mad Men of Masculinity, madmenradio.com, Facebook, YouTube, all the interwebs, 1220 AM on the KLDC in the Mile High City, all over the place, man. And so we're talking about freedom.
Yes, we are.
We're talking about freedom today, man.
Freedom in so many ways, but freedom for the new year. And this one is, we talk a lot of times 4 men and 2 men, and this time is actually to you guys. This is about how to be more free as a man in the new year. And what we were talking about in the first segment is really focusing on what you really want, what will make you free. And a lot of times we tend to focus on, as guys, as our responsibilities and making money and being the best guy we can. Though sometimes we forget ourselves. We don't look back at the little guy, the little boy inside of us, and go, what does that little boy want? What does that little guy want? And what would really make me free? Because the freest people I see, it's not all about their accomplishments. It's about their self-awareness and self-worth.
Yeah, I think there's so many, man. There's so many things that there's so many things that we want. I think going into this new year, going into, for us, this new 2023 year, this is a great time to really talk with men, to men, and just really focus on leveling up us as men all together. I think, especially after the last couple topics we did, last week and the week before. By the way, we got censored, so
Yeah, we did.
Those social media entities out there wouldn't even let us talk about topics that needed to be talked about. And so I think it's even more important for us to reach out to men and let other men know that we care, that you're valuable, and how can we bring this thing to the next level. And so my man Harrison, this guy, man, he's been with me, man. I'm telling you, he's one of my homeboys, man. He was one of the sponsors of my first book launch years ago. This guy's got a roofing business. By the way, we're going to talk, Harrison, because, man, yeah, we're going to talk to this whole thing. I'm going to holler at you pretty soon about some stuff, man. Matter of fact, he's got a great story, man. This guy, I don't want to ruin it, but, I mean, this guy came here to this country in not the most upright way. But this guy, man, his story is phenomenal, man. Now he's a business owner. He's employing people. Man, he's kicking butt. But anyhow, cut to the chase. So Harrison says, we're talking about freedom. He says he wants freedom from pain from any past relationship is one thing I prayed for and received this past 2.5 years. Boom. And I think that's cool because when you get freedom from pain of a past relationship, and I've been there, man. I've been there specifically, man. And when you can get freedom from that, then again, that's freedom from something so that you can have freedom for something. And then you can be open to being able to be free for, the next great thing, the real awesome, great thing that comes into your life, man. And man, if anybody deserves it, it's you, bro. I mean, and so, yeah, freedom from just like the pain of your past, man, whether it's relationships or abuses or all that kind of stuff. A lot of us have been through that kind of stuff, man. And those kind of things are the intangible things that hold us down from everywhere we want to go.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I love that you brought that up is because when you do not heal the past, especially past relationships, I mean, we can go back to parents and things, but I mean, how many of us have really spent the time to heal from our past relationships and the trauma of our past relationships and the things that maybe we brought to that we have to look at and go, oh, maybe I was the common denominator in all this. Maybe I wasn't the best dude I could be. Maybe there's things I could bring into this and learn from, but we don't heal that and work on that and actually look back on our past relationships and say, okay, where was I coming up short? How could I be better? And like to Kirk's point, you get freedom from that to give you freedom to move into a next relationship that to be more healthy, to be more prosperous, to be more loving, to be all of those things that you want. And once again, guys, it's about looking in the mirror and going back inside and going, okay, who am I in this relationship? Who do I want to be in this relationship? And how can I be that guy? And I love, like Jordan Peterson, some of the things they say when people ask him, how do you find the best relationship? How do you attract your perfect partner? And he's like, well, figure out who you need to be to attract that perfect partner and then be that. And if you can do that, that gives you freedom from all those people that you don't want and sets you up for freedom to attract that person you do want. But once again, it's an inside job. So we're going to keep reiterating this. Your freedom lies within you. So stop chasing the golden ticket. Stop trying to keep up with the Joneses. Go inside and figure out, who am I? What is my foundation? What is my purpose? And what is going to make me feel the most free in my life?
Yeah, and I'm so glad he chimed in with that. In the way he even put it, the pain from any past. I think there's a difference between a wound and a scar, right? And right here on the middle of my forehead, man, I got a scar.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, well, you had to clock me. You had to clock me with the brass.
What me?
You ain't had to hit me with that golf club. Speaking of which, man, on the way home today, I was driving. There was people out playing golf today, man.
It was 60 degrees today, man. I'm missing out.
What? Oh man, you gotta love Colorado. Anyhow,
all right, sorry, I sidetracked you. Back on your scar.
Yeah, you did, squirrel. So scar and wound. So I got this scar in the middle of my forehead, man, because probably when I was about, I'm gonna say maybe like 8 or 9 or something like that. I used to live next to a shopping mall and some apartment complexes. And me and my friends used to play in the mall. We used to play, chase and tag and all that in the mall. So I was getting chased and dude was running behind me. He was chasing me and I was looking over my shoulder and I turned the corner on the outside of this building And when I turned back around, I went face first into a trash dumpster. And man, I'm telling you, blood all over the place, man. I mean, it was because head wounds bleed a lot, right? So, I mean, there was blood all over the place. That was the wound, right? And when you have that wound, you're walking around just bleeding and bleeding and bleeding and bleeding, and that whole thing in itself, when you have an open wound, whether it be physically or whether it be emotionally, spiritually, mentally, any kind of way, you just walking around bleeding all over the place. When you do some work to heal, and I'm back to the whole idea of freedom from pain, when you do the work to heal, that wound can become a scar, and that scar may be there forever unless you get it, removed or whatever. But that scar may be there, but that scar is evidence of something that you went through. And it can be, if you do it right, if you do the healing, it can be evidence of wisdom that you have or a lesson that you learned. And so Harrison, I'm positive, because I know you and you my dog, but that you say freedom from pain of any past relationships, man. When you go through that stuff, when you do the healing from that, that's the thing that makes you all the more better for the future. And that's the huge difference between taking your wound and allowing that to become a scar. That it doesn't mean it's not there ever and all that kind of stuff, but it's not actively bleeding, and it's something that you can learn from.
Yeah, and I mean, even going back to our past couple episodes, I mean, what we were talking about, that is about freeing yourself from those past traumas and pains so that you don't take yourself out. You being able to feel comfortable, or even not even feel comfortable, being willing to have the strength to talk about those things to free yourself from that pain. Because wisdom is having a memory without the emotion. And that comes from talking through it and healing that emotion. And one of the reasons we have to deal with so much of the childhood stuff that we deal with, as adults, is because now we have the tools and the wisdom and the maturity to deal with those things that we couldn't deal with as a child. Same thing goes with our past relationships. Same thing goes with all of our traumas and stuff. We need to be willing as men to be strong in the fact that we can feel uncomfortable by dealing with these things. What tends to take us out the most is this stoic, I don't feel anything. I'm going to shove it all down and not dredge it up and not talk about it and not actually heal it. And then that ends up giving us heart disease and all these other things that kills men much more than, the other gender, because we're not actually dealing with those things. And stoicism has its place. You want to be able to control your emotions, but you also want to be, emotionally mature and strong enough to deal with those emotions at some point. And by not dealing with those emotions, you're not a strong man anymore. You become a damaged man. You become a man who bleeds on everybody around them. And that's why we want to talk about setting yourself free from your past traumas, from the past pains, by going through the process, which is uncomfortable. But that's what makes you a stronger, wiser, more a better man, for lack of a better term, because you have actually dealt with those things, and now you have something to give back to the younger generation. You have something to express to your friends and your boys around you. You have something to share. But when we don't go through those things, when we keep them bottled up inside, they end up destroying us from the inside out. And that's why freedom is such an inside job.
And freedom can be contagious. I mean, when you learn lessons like what he's talking about, and oh, by the way, yeah, we'd love to know what kind of things you either want freedom from, or something that you want freedom in order to do, in this episode. So if you're watching this live or later on, give us a little comment or some thoughts. But one of the cool thing is when you go through something like that and you gain that freedom from something, one of the things that you're automatically qualified for in the freedom arena is to offer that to somebody else, to offer that to another guy. I mean, another guy in the area of support, another guy in the area of wisdom, because somebody else is going through that same exact thing, man. I'm telling you. I mean, so many of us guys are checking out because we don't know that other people are going through or have gone through the same thing. And so we give up, and so we quit, and so we walk away, or we become something we don't want to be. And so when you go through that kind of stuff, man, and us as guys, man, I mean, we need each other so bad. We don't even realize how bad we need each other, man, to bring this thing to the next level, man, to support one another, to lift up each other's businesses, to lift up each other's, ventures and things that we have going on, to encourage guys. just even in the trenches of life, man, a lot of times the hardest thing we got to do at the end of the day is to go home. I mean, sometimes, for us, it's, the work is the grind, and we're used to that. But how do I come home and deal with that kind of stuff? That's the stuff that we need other guys for, man. And we need other guys to be able to lift each other up and to get through all that kind of stuff. So when you get that wisdom, when you get that freedom from something, man, you're automatically qualified for freedom for the whole ability to pour into another guy.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we talk about so much, that most guys are suffering. Like, they feel like they're on an island. They feel like they're the only one going through what they're going through. They feel like they're the only one that has their issue. But honestly, when you break it down, there's only about 4 or 5 issues that any human being ever goes through. And it's usually has to do with like poverty or money or relationships or, whatever. I don't know what all of them are. I'll have to look that up for the next episode. But there's only a few things that we go through as human beings. So for you to think that you're the only one, now granted, we all do that, especially as men, because we're taught to suck it up and to shove it down and to not talk about it and to not ask for support. And that's what we're doing this for, is to encourage you guys to show a new strength in masculinity, a new strength as a man, to say, hey, you know what? I'm struggling. I need support. Because that's going to be one of the hardest conversations you're ever going to have, but it's going to be the conversation that gives you the most dividends in the future. So I'm going to challenge you guys. I know you're all big, strong men. You're all masculine men. You got the money. You got the cars. You got the things. If you're not with other guys, supporting other guys, asking for support, being of support, you're missing half the ball game. You're missing half the stuff that we need as men to grow and become better. And speaking of getting better.
Yeah, well, we can get better. We can get better
right now if you want to. We can get better right now. We're going to take a break right now because it's that time.
I ain't scared of that. Boom. Let's do that then, man. We'll be right back. Madman and Masculinity, KLDC 1220 AM in the Mile High City.
Boom. I got to take a real break. I'll be right back. I'm going to mute it too.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. Mute your computer, man. We don't want to hear you go twinkle. We want to hear you go shake the dew off your lily. So if you're watching us live right now, we are normally we do this in studio, but since it's kind of a weird holiday week, we're doing this at home where we record for our show. And then our super producer, Nikki Nicole, she takes the audio and she chops it up and packages it up for our show that airs Saturday, 8 a.m., KLDC, 1220 a.m. in Denver. Actually, the whole Denver Front Range, really, from like Longmont to, I don't know, somewhere Monument, and then like down, Front Range out to Strasburg kind of thing. So big, huge listening area. But yeah, so it airs Saturday, 8 a.m. and also every Wednesday at 6 p.m. And so we're doing this now. We're just recording this. And so right now we normally take a little pause. You'll hear when we sign off for breaks, we go quiet. That's so she can tell when all the sound goes, and that's where to edit. And then we'll give a little quiet, and then she knows it's coming back. So all of y'all are kind of getting the behind the scoop, behind the scenes action for this whole thing. But anyhow, like I said, we'd love to know from all of y'all, man, anything you want freedom from and anything you like freedom for. So boom. You done, man? Everything work out okay? That was pretty quick, man.
I even washed my hands.
Oh, you got little tiny tanks, man.
Oh, that.
All right, here we go.
And we're back.
That's right.
Masculinity, KLDC, 1220 AM in the Mile High City. And we're talking freedom, baby.
Hey, do we have a website?
We do. It is madmenradio.com.
Word. And what like social media platforms can we be found on?
Well, we can be found on Facebook, Madmen Radio on Facebook, or you can go onto YouTube, Madmen and Masculinity on YouTube. We can also be found on Spotify and iTunes and basically anywhere you can get a podcast. So we're pretty much everywhere.
Boom, man. This is good stuff, man. Like I said, man, I value freedom a lot. Downstairs in my house, I have a 4-foot Braveheart sword, replica from the movie. William Wallace is kind of one of my favorite fictional characters.
Freedom! Although I don't like what they did when he screamed that to him.
His last word, yeah, that was pretty torturous. But, his last word when he was being tortured and his head was about to be chopped off, was freedom. And, man, I think that's, it's a phenomenal thing to go out seeking in life, but especially seeking for other people, man. And so freedom is huge, man, and especially for guys. I think as we pivot into this next year, um, and of course, every day is New Year's Day. But as we pivot into a calendar change, man, it's a great opportunity to think about, man, not only us individually, but us as men, like collectively. Like, what kind of things do we need to be freed from, culturally in our society? What kind of things do we need freedom from, so that as a group of men, we can have freedom for something? I mean, man, those are kind of big questions, man.
Yeah, and one of the things I wanted to bring up too is that a lot of times we as guys kind of tend to go overboard because we decide we're gonna make a switch and then we just go off the deep end, but it's unsustainable. So one of the things I wanted to bring up and talk about is making incremental changes, trying to be 1% better each day, so that you can make that exponential change later on down the road. But don't go overboard, because I'm speaking from experience. It's like, oh, I'm going to change my life, so I sell off everything, I move to another city, and guess what? No matter where you go, there you are. And if you haven't looked inside and worked on who you are inside, and when you find that freedom on the inside, no matter what you do, no matter where you go, you're going to be much happier, more content. So it's always about working inside, but making those incremental changes and being nice to yourself, and give yourself a little bit of grace as you make changes. And what's interesting is a lot of guys we talk to and the guys we work with, they want better relationships, they want better money, they want to find purpose in their career. But that all starts inside. And a lot of times we tend to either follow our father's example or some other man's example, or if we don't have that example, we go out into the world and look at what celebrity or who do we idolize and then try to follow that example. But that guy's not you. And even if it is your father or your family, you got to find out what's true for you and go in that direction. And sometimes that's hard because we want to make people around us happy, we want to make our family happy or spouses happy and stuff. But when it comes to your freedom and your happiness and your purpose, that has to come from inside you. And when you find that balance and you find that purpose and freedom inside you, that structure of this is who I am, and no matter what the world says, I know who I am and I'm good with that, then you will start to attract those things that you wanted in the first place, that you were chasing anyway. And it's really interesting. It's always that inside out job. You fix this on the inside, then everything that you want will start to appear on the outside.
Here, so this is third segment here. On our last segment, I'll actually I'll get into the method that I teach guys in
Would
terms
you
of freedom.
please?
But before that, for anybody that doesn't know, man, I was addicted to pornography for 30 of the first 40 years of my life, and ruined a couple marriages, ruined a career. At my rock bottom, I was sleeping in the back of my car outside of a hospital at night, and getting dressed and showering and all that at the office in the morning, and nobody knew it. I was a greeter at the door at church, but nobody knew I was miserable. All those kinds of things, man. Life sucked like that bad. And so at my rock bottom, man, I thought I just wanted to end it all, and I was not far away, a couple pounds of pressure on my fingertip from not being here right now, man. And so that is my addiction story. And now I work with Step 7, and working with guys who struggle with various types of addiction. um and so when you talk about the huge change, man, one of the foundational concepts in everything that I teach and working with guys is Kaizen. It's small, measurable change projected out over time. If you say I want to lose weight and you lose 60 pounds in a month, you're probably going to gain 75 or 80 in the following 30 to 45 days. Drastic change is not sustainable, but small, measurable change is sustainable. And so it's like the ship it's a few degrees off, and that few degrees off, when you project that over time, it's huge. And that's how the early explorers, thought they were going somewhere, and they were just bad navigators, and they were way off. And so in life, we have to focus on the small, measurable change, just tweaking it 1% every day, 0.5% every day, just getting better today than you were yesterday by a little bit, by fractions of amount. And that'll lead to big dividends down the road. But when you brought up, sustainable change, man, that's exactly what that reminded me of. It's Kaizen, man. It's just small, itty bitty little changes. And if that's one push up, then so be it. But that's a huge concept change in our country. You're right. We do want like immediate change, and it doesn't work that way. It's not sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the 1 degree off. You know, if you're flying across the Atlantic and you're 1 degree off, you're going to end up 1,000 miles off your destination or where you wanted to land. So if you
Mhm.
take that into the positive direction, 1 degree shift can put you in a whole nother hemisphere, can put you in a whole nother
Yeah.
continent, it can be to a whole nother world basically of your experience and of your life. And so not looking at I have to make these drastic changes. Now for some people, I know a lot of guys that do like 75 hard and they do these things and that works for them. But it's also about having accountability, having people around you and finding guys around you because there's a study that keeps popping up on my news feed and they always talk about they put these rats in these cages and they put there's two bottles of water, one has drugs in it, one has just water, and that rat 100% of the time will drink all the drug water and end up killing himself. But then one scientist goes, well, that's not an actual natural state. He's isolated by himself in a cage. So when they put the rats in what they called rat utopia, mouse utopia, so they had all their friends and they had food and games and all this stuff, and they put the same two bottles of water in there, none of them killed themselves and they very rarely ever touched the drugged water. So knowing that they had community and they had outlets and some entertainment and things to stimulate them. What tends to be our guys as men, our biggest problem is our isolation. And I'm speaking from
Mhm.
experience. I have been an isolationist my entire life. And so it's a matter of slowly getting out of your shell, finding those people you trust, and taking those little steps so that you can get out and become a healthier man. Because when we isolate, we medicate. And so we medicate
Mhm.
with porn, we medicate with drink, we medicate with drugs, we medicate with TV, with video games. And these are things that we want to incrementally take away. Like I used to be a big racer. I actually just sold my sim racing gear and my PlayStation because I'm like, I don't want to spend all this time on the computer when if I want to go race, I'll go out and go kart or go racing, actually physically do it. But giving yourself the opportunity to say, hey, is this working for me? What would give me more freedom for things that I want to do and start incrementally making those changes and finding guys around you that can support you making those changes. Because I guarantee you, if you want to stick to those changes and make yourself more free and a better man, having men around you to hold you accountable that know what you're up to.
Mhm.
Don't make changes and don't tell anybody. Just say, hey, I'm making this change because I want A, B, and C as a result of this. And I want you to hold me accountable because you're my guys.
Yeah, they say you can go fast by yourself or you can go far with others, right? And when the seasons begin to change and when winter is coming, you look up in the sky and you don't see like one bird flying south for the winter. You see like a whole flock of birds flying south for the winter because it's easier for them to be able to fly in formation. And so us as guys, yeah, when I mean, you think about it, what if this generation just pivoted manhood or masculinity just a little bit? What if each one of us put one hand on that plow and just pull just a little bit? I mean, what if what if each one of us just said, man, I'm going to reach out to a guy. I'm going to get myself together just a little bit. I'm going to try to up level just a little bit, but I'm not going to do it alone because, what good is it if I do it alone, if I can't bring others with me? And so, what if us, not only through this platform, but whatever our individual lives are, the platforms that they are, what if we had a mental shift of, man, wait a minute, I'm going to start to I'm going to start to be part of the shift, the kaizen of manhood, of masculinity, such that the next generation is going to be better than this generation. Most of us were raised by women. Most of us have a primary figure in our life that growing up that was a woman, and so a lot of us don't have those things that we could need in terms of what masculinity dictates. So what if we decided, like, man, you know what? I'm going to reach out to a guy on a regular basis. I'm going to text some guys and say, hey, how you doing? Scale of 1 to 10. Just checking. What if each one of us just did that a little bit, man? If each one of us texted a guy once a week, we texted 5 guys. I mean, and just to check in, man. I mean, the state of all of us would be better, man, to go there together as opposed to going alone.
Yeah. And as part of what we do here and why we're here doing this is because we're kind of following that methodology of wanting to share our stories so you're not alone. We have both struggled with all kinds of things. And so we can not only understand where you're coming from, but let you know you're not alone. And one of the things I know from my experience is that I was so worried about telling somebody my struggles. I was so worried about telling somebody my demons and my dark side and talking about these things that I knew I needed to talk about, but I was so afraid of being judged. And I don't know of any time that I told a good friend. Now, granted, if you just start blurting the stuff out in public, you're going to get all kind of the judgment you want. And a lot of times we do that as an internal self-sabotage. But finding healthy men around you and expressing whatever it is, most of those guys are going to understand because they've either been there, done that, been through it, or going through it right now. So having the strength, and that's what I want to make the new strength of men, not just emotional stoicism, but having the strength to express ourselves to other men about what we're going through so that we can survive this life, and not only survive but thrive, and thrive in a way that boosts our own internal freedom, that boosts our own self-worth. And when we boost that internal self-worth and that internal feeling of freedom, then we become that strong man that we want to be, that we're out there trying to chase by getting the dollars and the things. We can go inside and create that for ourselves.
Then we have that collective freedom. Then we have the collective freedom of us, man, and we can be the tide. And when the tide comes in, all boats rise. When we as men are the tide that comes into the bay, man, families get better, communities get better, businesses get better, they get safer. We're all safer. Women are better. You name it, man. We as men are that tide that can rise all boats. And so when we get our collective freedom in place, and we don't have anything holding us back, our past, our pains, any of that kind of stuff, man, we can move forward. And so let's move forward to our last break. What do you think?
I like it. Let's move forward.
Boom. We'll be right back. Mad Men of Masculinity, KLDC 1220 AM in the Mile High City and on the interwebs.
Everywhere.
Boom. Like I said, if you're watching this live, hey, you know what I started drinking lately, man? I always thought it was a sham, man, but this alkaline water, man, I've been kind of getting into it, dude. I've been drinking like a lot more water, man. But more specifically, I've been drinking a lot of, and you and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but man, I've been drinking a lot more of this stuff, man. I mean, maybe this is man nectar.
There you go. Now we're talking. That's why I got this $5,000 machine in my kitchen that ionizes my water and gives me 9.5 alkaline water, so that I can still be here. Yeah, so sometimes I joke about it that
this is the true man nectar.
Yeah, maybe it is. I always joke that I drink the good water and I try to eat the healthy food so I can abuse myself a little more as I get older.
Yep, you're right, man. 9.5 pH.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
that's a good.
Yo, Costco, holla at your boy, man. Holla
at your boy, Costco.
Let's get a commercial here. I don't know. All right, boom. Let's finish this thing up.
Let's do it. And we're back. Mad Men of Masculinity, KLDC, 1220 AM in the Mile High City.
That's right, folks. That's right, folks. It's your boys, Kirk M. Samuels, Jason B. Kendrick.
In the house.
In his house, waiting for a golf course near you to open up. Well, they're back open when it's warm.
There's one near me. It's just,
yeah.
You got to put on your thick jacket because I know how you do with the cold.
Man. Dude, you got me a new shirt for Christmas, bro.
Man.
Come on, man.
Put that
on.
I
got to put on that shirt.
Put that on with the jacket, and then
with the jacket, we can do this
with your thing. Your
we can do this, man.
Cover up your.
You know how I am with the cold, though, man. You know how I am with the cold, man. I don't play with no cold weather, man. Especially golfing. I don't know. Is the snow? But I assume the snow is melted out there.
Yeah,
but is it muddy though? That's the thing.
It didn't look like it was that bad, but I don't know.
Like I said, there was a lot of people out there when I drove by, man. I was kind of surprised
because it was 60 degrees today, man. It's 60 degrees in December.
Yeah, they mess around and give me a warm
after we had negative 15. Now it's 60 degrees.
For real.
Gotta love Colorado, man.
You know what else was crowded?
Wait 5 minutes, it'll change.
The driving range was crowded too. There's a lot of people out there.
Everybody's trying to get their swing back.
Getting it in.
Speaking of getting their swing back, man.
For real. Hey, I want freedom. I want freedom from a bad round of golf.
Ain't gonna happen.
I want freedom from my slice.
Well, then we have to get you some lessons.
And hey, that's perfect though, man, because you could be 1 millimeter off on your downstroke, and the
Mhm.
ball is like 100 yards that way, as opposed to right down the middle of the fairway, man. And so small measurable change, man. It's just working on the small details of the stroke of life, man, and you can have all the freedom you want, man. That's what it comes
Yeah.
down to.
Well, and that's one of the, yeah, what we were trying to decide what to talk about today, and I brought this up because I know what you do, and I know your program, Free Indeed, and I mean even your book, For Your Eyes Only. All of these things are about getting freedom, and so I wanted you to really dig in because I wanted somebody out there to hear what you do and give you a call because they want freedom from the same addiction.
And as much as I mean, as much as I love teaching the whole method to a group of people, I also love working with people, guys, mainly one on one. And it's commonly guys that struggle with the same thing I struggled with. But ultimately, at the core of what I teach, and it's a method that I developed, a method that I kind of came up with from scratch, to be honest with you, and it worked for me. After 30 years of addiction, man, it absolutely worked for me. And so I try to just pass that info along in the form of training and working with guys. But at the core of it, again, it is a Kaizen kind of approach, and it is, scientifically, I guess, or whatever you want to call it officially, it's adaptive behavioral therapy or behavioral
Mhm.
adaptive therapy, however you want to word that. Um but it's implementing change in your life to get an outcome that you're seeking. And I use a score method. And that score method is kind of, it's along the Jenny Craig Weight Watchers kind of methodology in terms of using points to track your progress. And so I use points, a point method to track your progress. But again, at the core of it, I learned, discovered, and I firmly believe that we are multi-dimensional beings, that we are a physical being, that we are mental slash psychological. When I say mental, I mean psychological slash neurological being, and a spiritual being. And I've even heard it put eloquently that we're a spiritual being on a physical journey. Um, and so, in any case, at the core of it, I think in order to get, and this again, this is from my experience, the core of it is getting freedom by investing in each one of those areas of who you are on a regular, if not daily basis. And then, like I said, I put a point system to it, but it's strengthening your body by causing your body to sweat. Um, Strengthening your mind by metaphorically causing your brain to sweat, which is in the form of learning something new today that you didn't know yesterday, whatever that is. Man, I believe you can get a PhD on YouTube these days. There's so
Mhm.
many smart people teaching a whole lot of things, man. So you don't have to pay a whole lot. But either way, at work, you can learn something new, audiobooks. There's so many methods to learn something new, but to learn something new on a daily, if not regular basis. And then finally, some kind of spiritual discipline or some kind of spiritual exercise on a daily, if not regular basis, to develop your spirit man of who you are. And so when you hammer away at that on a regular basis with some intentionality, with some approach, and not just from a checking off the box kind of thing, but digging deeper. The guy that, is a guy I'm working with one on one right now. And he's kind of like, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm going through the motion. I'm getting my points and blah, blah, blah. I'm plus 11 every day. But he was like, but really nothing out of it. I'm so glad he did, because I'm so glad he told me that, because what we discovered is that he's going through the motions, but he's not actually digging through and actually seeking anything. And it was almost a parallel between his marriage right now, where you go out on a date, because the wife wants to go on a date night, but there's no intimacy, there's no connection, there's nothing beneath the surface. So the whole point of exercising your body is to cause your body to sweat, to cause your body to do some physical activity that pushes it. Same thing with your mind, learning something that pushes it. Same thing with your spirit, getting into a deep spiritual space, a deep spiritual exercise, whether it be prayer or meditation or music or whatever your modality is. But it's digging deep to find out like what's beneath the surface, as opposed to just living in that surface life. So anyhow, at the core of it all, it is strengthening your mind, body, and your spirit, but doing it on a Kaizen perspective, smart change projected out over time with some intentionality and and some methodology, some purpose to the way that whole thing works out. And so anyhow, that's kind of the core. That's the 50,000 foot version of just the. But I think the important parts are not expecting change overnight from something that is years in the making to get there, and then at the same time as being intentional and is digging deep as a man, getting beneath the surface.
Yeah, and one of the things to keep in mind and why we want to push so much on the 1 degree improvement is that it took you this many years to build that neural pathway. It took you this many years to build that habit. And so what we're trying to do is not immediately replace that habit or drop that habit. What you want to do is gradually replace that habit with something more healthy. And when you do that on a long enough timeline, you'll forget that habit because now you're rewiring your brain. It's all, the neuroelasticity. So you can actually rewire your brain. Old dogs can learn new tricks. You have that power. It usually takes us a little bit longer. And so having a deeper vision, a depth of vision for the future of saying, I'm going to change this and it's going to be this incremental change. And also allowing yourself what I call one of my coaching modalities is what I call the 12-step, two-step. Knowing that you're going to have a fallback, you're going to have a relapse, but that's going to be some of the most important parts of your journey because that helps you to realize you don't want to go back there anymore. Those step backs that you have in life are the things that reinforce your movement forward. Well, what tends to happen a lot of times, especially if you don't have support, is you have that relapse, you have that step back, and then you go, "Oh, I did it again. I'm worthless." Then you give up. But having somebody there support you and walk you through that to go, no, that's a step back. We all have that. We all do that, and that's to help reinforce that I don't want to do this behavior anymore. And each time you have that step back, you catch it quicker and quicker and quicker. And so at some point, you'll start to even before you do anything, you'll go, "Oh, I'm starting to feel like I'm going to have a step back. Now I can change direction." And then that's when you know you've ultimately changed that neural pathway. You've changed that habit, and that's why doing these things, either using Kirk's score system or whatever system works for you. I mean, if you one of the Zen teachings is if you want to be a spiritual person, chop wood and carry water. Do the physical things in life you need to do in your life. Clean your room, clean your dishes, go out for a walk, do those mundane things in a mindful way. Cook your meals in a mindful way. I know I get so caught up in my everyday worldly duties, work and the show and everything else that I'm not actually present thinking about what I'm putting in my body or thinking about what's going on in the world. I'm not present in the moment. So whatever you can do when you're present in the moment in a meditative mindset and whether it's cooking or cleaning or going for a walk or walking your dogs or whatever it is, if you can be present in that moment, that's going to help keep you on that path and keep you infusing spirituality into your life. And that's just one of the ways to make those incremental changes by being more present in your life. Because if you're present, it's much harder to fall into that addictive pattern when you're actually present, going, "Oh, I had that thought. Do I want to go there?" But when you're not present, then that thought just comes and takes over. So, doing whatever you can to be more present in your day will help you with this incremental journey back to health.
Addiction is a habit. Failure is a habit. Losing is a habit. Obesity is a habit. I mean, you name it. At the same time, success is a habit. Winning is a habit. Freedom is a habit. And so that whole methodology that I talked about was developing the habit of winning, the habit of freedom. And the habit of freedom looks like doing a bunch of small things over and over again to build up that freedom muscle. And then at some point, you look up and you stop stopping and you start starting because you can, yeah, absolutely. Neuroplasticity is a very real thing. I've myself, I mean, I'm a, living proof of that whole thing, but, but I think us, again, us as guys, I think collectively, when we develop these habits, and one of the great ways to begin and to maintain the habit is to have other people in your life to help you walk through the methodology or the even the monotony of the habit of doing the same thing over and over again. And so you work out harder when you have a workout partner, et cetera, et cetera. And so us as guys, man, when we turn the page on this thing that we call a year or time, and us as guys absolutely must, come together, partner together, link up, man, and push each other to the freedom from everything we want so that we can have freedom for everything we want as a culture, as a society, as a population, and as a group of warrior men.
Yeah, one of the things to keep in mind as well, one of the biggest things you want freedom up from is from your own self judgment. So you need to make it okay and say to yourself, I failed. That's okay. I failed at this. I'm not a failure. Maybe I'm overweight. Taking personal responsibility and be like, I'm overweight. That's okay. Um, I've had an addiction. That's okay. But acknowledging where you're at, your step one, is one of the most important things. That's why in 12 steps they say, "Hi, my name is so and so, and I'm this." You are acknowledging where you're at so that you know where you're going. You have to have that step one moment. And when you have other men around you to have that one moment with, it's so much more powerful and impactful. So just acknowledge that, hey, I've failed or I've done this, and say that's okay. Because guess what? Everybody else has done it too, whether they want to admit it or not. But if you can admit it, you have your step one, you're already on the way.
And just because that's where you are doesn't mean that's where you stay, obviously. Just because that's what you've done, that's not who you are as a person. And so these are the kind of things that, man, us as guys, we can absolutely kick each other's butt and move each other collectively down the trail and get to
Mhm.
everywhere we want to get to. JBK, love you, brother.
Love you, sir. Thank you so much for this wonderful year, and this I'm looking forward for this new year. It's going to be
No
amazing, and I
doubt.
hope to see many more of you gentlemen out there in the world. I want y'all to like and comment. Quit being those strong silent types. I want to hear what you got to say.
Share.
Like and share, and tell your friends.
Boom. And with that, Mad Men
Madmen
out.
out.